Hey, it's friend Bernie here. So just before we get into today's episode of the Coworking Values Podcast, I'd like to bring to your attention the Community Builders cohort that Emily and I are running. You can find a link in the show notes. That's where all the information is. But essentially, it's a 3-month online peer-to-peer learning and support program where you can take your community from undiscovered to unstoppable. And the best way we've ever found is being guided and working with people who are either at or just above, just around the same stage as you. So jump to the link in the show notes and sign up to hear more details. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Renegades of Flow, which is our special Ernie and Emily podcast talking about how we do our workflow. And it's where we get to dig into really interesting minutiae stuff that is not necessarily about co-working, but is about life, the universe, and everything. Where are you in the world today, Emily?
I'm in Ohio.
Again, we want to talk about vision, mission, and values today. And
yeah, it's been coming up a lot.
It has been coming up a lot, and it came up in the drive call where we were all hands in the clay with David Brown and Martin Sibley and Anne Hawkins and stuff like that. And because I've got so much unsubstantiated opinion and you've got a lot of wisdom around this, I've got a few questions for you, which obviously I'm going to ask you, but let's pretend that we haven't prepared for this. So just before we kick off, what's your kind of headline opinion on this vision mission thing?
Well, I feel, everybody's done a podcast on it. Everybody's done a book on it or a workshop on it. I know they run regular ones at the local small business administration here in Ohio, but I feel like it gets glossed over. Like, okay, we'll get these done first and then you move on. And then you kind of never revisit it again. But what it should be is something that's looked at the beginning of every team meeting, that's you remind each other about, so that people remember these are our guiding values. This is our big picture vision, and our mission. That's our day-to-day work. It's absolutely the heartbeat of your, not just your branding message. It's not just a marketing artifact. It is the guidelines for your organization.
Yeah, my favorite greatest hit stories on this was a startup company I was working with, and we were all on a call, and it was very fast moving and all a bit crazy, and we got to the vision, mission, values thing, and someone on the call said, "Oh, but that's a marketing department job." And I went, "No, it's like quite important. The founders talk about this stuff. It's not like a blog post you throw up." And
or just something you put on the about page.
Yeah, it all got a bit awkward because they were so jacked up on startup mode, and I've just got so many anecdotes and things I've read from read in books and stuff where the team, the senior leadership team all go away for 48 hours and spend probably like £50,000 staying in a luxury hotel talking about their vision, mission, purpose, and all this stuff, and they feel like they've nailed it, and then they come back and it's on a crappy plaque and everyone in the company forgets it, and it's so sad because probably the energy in that room is not transferred into the business and the company and everything like that.
Well, it becomes something to just kind of like blow hot air up the skirts of the board of directors. It's what I often, you've heard me call things like this mental masturbation, where you're just doing it to feel good, and it's really for that expensive trip into butt shoulders with your bros, up at the top echelons of your company, and honestly, it should be the whole company, maybe even watching you put it together, or having some say in some way, or at least contributing in some way to its creation. Because if you want your team to behave with those principles of your values, they need to know what they are. They need to know why you picked them. It guides their everyday work.
We did a lot of this in WeShare. I'll put a link in the show notes to the whole WeShare project, and I think, and I definitely contributed to this, there was a few a couple of hours where we sat around talking a little bit too deeply on the meaning of a word, and we could have just got on with it. But it was WeShare was a group of people from mainly all over Europe who worked together remotely and on projects and events together, and having done that work together in, sounds really exotic, in Paris and Berlin and Italy when we were on retreats. When there was a bit of mayhem in projects, we were able to say, "Oh, do you remember when we talked about this and that?" And it quickly aligned everybody with what we were doing, and it got us back. It definitely got us back on track a few times. So I think when we say that is when everybody's involved. There's a book about there's someone like Kim Scott or Brené Brown, and they say like no involvement, no commitment. And when you're not involved in putting this stuff together and you're just given a bit of paper, it is like being given a receipt for a croissant rather than a mission for the company, and how you spend 8 hours of your day if you're in a regular working environment. What do you think happens when someone loses their vision for what they're building? Like, if they're all like lost at sea and they need to reconnect with their purpose, but they're like, not that we've ever been like this, but they're exhausted and just want to go and watch Netflix. How can they reconnect with that energy?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's kind of built in though, because when you revisit when you just read them, your values, your mission, and your values, when you read them, it's the lighthouse in the storm. Immediately it shows you where you were intending to go. So there is no like, how do I reconnect? Just look at them, read them. That's how you reconnect. And it should immediately bring to you, this is why we're here. That's why it's so important to get it right. Yes, I agree. You shouldn't, split hairs trying to figure out the precise meanings, but you should look at every word from every side to make sure there aren't some inferences that people in the company and people outside of the company and the customers can decide, oh, well, this is something they're about, and you actually mean something different. So I do think you have to be clear, but I think the best method for clarity is to keep it extremely simple. I like to advise people to stay between 3 and 5 max values, and to make sure that your vision is very clear. This is where we're going, and that your mission is clearly stated. This is how we get there. And then the values. This is how we're going to behave while we do it. So when it comes to reconnecting, the reason why you're disconnected is because you haven't been looking at it. And that's why I like, just with the cadence of scrum meetings, sprint meetings, daily stand-ups, and just, you've seen me do this in meetings too, when we do our cohorts, that I'll flash up on the screen in the beginning of the meeting, this is why we're here. These are our guiding principles for behavior. And even if I just talk over it while they're up there, I don't have to repeat it every time. People understand that I'm putting it up there first thing because it's that important. So it's whoever is bringing everyone together should put it in front of their faces. You don't have to shove it in their faces, but you're not going to go around the room and make everybody repeat them after you. That would be obnoxious. But they should at least know these are important. This is why we show them in the beginning.
What about the languaging of it all? Because we both talk about this a lot of the time. If you put something into an AI engine, it says fostering creative, collaborative communities with innovative solutions, and you can just tell online when someone, particularly in the co-working industry, has outsourced their value statement creation to a AI engine. And I know you have something to say about this.
Yeah, I do have a lot of things to say about this, actually. I feel like the important thing is to make sure that the people who are making it actually believe what they're writing. So if you say you want honesty and transparency, then you better deliver that to your team too. Don't just expect it from them. Don't just stand up there preaching these principles and then act completely differently. Look at any of the major CEOs in the world for an example of this done wrong. A lot of businesses do that, but if you want a healthy company culture, if you want your vision, mission, and values to eventually be set it and forget it, then you have to code it into the behavior in the culture of your organization. And a lot of businesses just don't care about it. They'll slap something up there. They're there to make money. They don't really care about anything. Their mission, vision, and values, if they were accurate, would be vision, retire and sit on a big golden egg. Mission, um, fleece everyone we come across in our business day to get there. And then our values is gimme, gimme, gimme. That would be an honest. And I would say for people that do that, just be honest with yourself. But don't expect the people that work under you not to act exactly the same way. So it's not a healthy model if you do that and you're not in line with it.
There was someone I was speaking to when I was in London. They are in a really tight spot as they are growing their business, and they've kind of got 2 sites, and they're juggling everything, and they're waiting for investment, and it's all a bit crazy. And I felt that they are so on their mission that they were like just pulling stuff out their ears to keep the show on the road. They had a bigger team and they had a smaller team. Now they've got a smaller team, so they have to do everything themselves, and they've been dealt a couple of really unfortunate punches. And I was just listening to them going, how do you keep doing this? And I think it's just popped in my head there. So it's a very unformed thought, but I just thought it's because you're on a mission, and how do you get to that? Do you think, like, when it's like super impossible, but you still manage to pull it out of the hat?
Well, if there is that emotional drive that brings the team together, there's some part of the product, some part of the service which aligns not only with the company mission, but with your personal mission. I think that that's when that happens. So, for example, I've worked with and for a lot of businesses, but in the partnership I've built with you, because we have similar, not identical, but extremely similar working values, it works a lot better.
What about when someone's lost their vision? Because do you remember that Seth Godin book, The Dip? That's what I'm thinking of. Is when you've lost that drive, and there's that. Do I get up and go, or is it a signal from the universe?
I like to call these periods, and it happens when you're writing and doing creative things too, not just business stuff. Business stuff is also creative. I call these periods of incubation. Think of it like you're pregnant with the next business idea or creative venture. It's growing and it's developing. Just because the work isn't flowing out of your fingertips, just because your purpose isn't right in front of your face and fulfilled, doesn't mean you're not in a good spot, because there's a lot of potential in that place. You're setting the groundwork for something big. I would choose as much as I could emotionally, although we don't have much choice with our emotions, but I would try to choose to just own it. This is where I am. If I'm in this place, then what do I need? If you plant a seed, you need to water it, you need to fertilize it. That's your time for consuming new information, learning new skills. That's the time to up your game and to level up.
Yeah, there was it takes, I don't know what it takes, but like a lot of experience or reflection to appreciate that. Like, I used to completely lose it for a fortnight, and now when I feel like that, I kind of am able to go, right, where am I? And it's not like some superhero move. Sometimes it takes a day to get back on track, but it's like it does in some instances occur. Actually, you know what it is? It's that phrase which coaches shout out: "Breakdown for breakthrough." I'm not always in that voice. Sorry. So
Well, it's like exercising a muscle. It's a skill. Just like choosing happiness and choosing to be present in your marriage, that's a skill. You have to practice it every day. You have to make that choice every day. It has to be important to you.
my next thing here is, if I can read my own handwriting, is so frequently there's been people who have started a co-working space and they have this vision for their co-working space, but they have no one in it. And one particular person I was working with about 5 years ago said, "Oh, mega space it's all about community." I was like, "There's only 2 people in here, so it's not about the community. It's about how we get people in here and grow the community." But they were hung up on community, and I felt they were, and I understood it as well, that they wanted to get the community so they could see who was in the community so they could form their vision, but they hadn't formed their vision. There was this kind of endless chicken and egg thing, which was really hard to work out. And, if there's a founder sitting down and starting out, how would you advise them to get around making their vision so it doesn't become a navel gazing exercise? It actually informs, like, here's how we're going to move forward,
Okay, I got you. So in this case, this is when you've confused your mission for your vision. And your vision is the big picture. It's where you're going. Building the community, having a vibrant community supporting your business is part of the vision. The mission is to get people into your space and using it. And that's through, marketing and sales and a lot of different things. I understand being so focused and excited about the community, especially when you start. But it takes a lot of effort and groundwork to build a community. So that should be what you put in your mission, the how you get there.
And how about, like, especially in business, I feel that mission statements avoid talking about money, and kind of you need to find this balance of, like, there's a financial mission because you're a business and you need to make money, or even if you're a charity like Urban MBA, you have to make revenue in order to keep going. And so many things are like, we exist to provide best in class service kind of thing, and it's not based in reality, because if no one gets a paycheck, it's all over.
Well, there are implied visions and mission. I mean, you want your business to be solvent. You want it to financially support you. You don't necessarily need to state those things outright, but they are implied in every business vision and mission and values. You can, in order to separate it out, it could be a good exercise to go ahead in the beginning and write those things down and make them part of the vision to build a company which supports our employees and has good benefits and unlimited PTO and whatever bells and whistles sound good to you. That should be the end vision, the vision. Your mission, how you get there, is not to make money. It's to land sales. It's to get people through the door, and it's just implied. But it can be very easy to get misled by that, by thinking, first off, that it's the only mission, especially when you're having hard times and you're in survival mode and it's all you can think about. It's important to remember that right now in your survival times, you're not going to be thinking about, the next community event. You're thinking about survival. You're thinking about covering all of your employees' salaries. And that's important. That's absolutely important. It's more important than the next community event. It really is. So, I mean, it's important to bear that in mind, but don't get lost in the weeds. Once your business is started and stable, that's when the financial things can just be implied in the background. But if you're in trouble, bring it back into the fold. It's okay to talk about it. I think a lot of people think that they have to stick with that overarching highfalutin vision.
So if I'm Bernie J. Mitchell, CEO of Mega Co-working, and I think, like, what are the consequences of me not being able to articulate or transfer my vision to my team? Because I've been in the situation where the person I'm working under is we just got to get this done. And I'm like, I know we got to get this done, but I'm going to get it done. But it would be a lot easier if I knew where we were going,
Was there a question
There
in
wasn't a
there?
question in there. It was I sort of answered my own question accidentally. But so if I'm running a company, just to get back on track, Emily, sorry. If I'm running a company and I don't have I can't articulate a vision and mission, what are the consequences to the people working with me or for me or under me?
Well, a lot of the time, communication will get slow. People will be hesitant to act. Trust in the organization will drop. Um, and then once you start doing that, the vision starts losing emotional connection. And then, the whole business slows down. And you notice that you see it in your bottom line. It's that important.
It is really important. And I've seen places where the energy is fragmented because, as an employee, the scenario I'm thinking of is in a restaurant I worked in. It was an owner-managed restaurant, and I would come into the restaurant, and I never knew what direction we were going in, because one minute we were supposed to be like a party venue, then we were going to be fine dining, and the guy wasn't sure who he was catering to, and it's almost like while the menu stayed the same, how the menu was represented fluctuated. He didn't know where it was going to be either day, and it just showed up in the fluctuation in vision showed up in so many things. And I think, now I understand this stuff at a deeper level. Arguments that would happen in the kitchen and between waiting staff and managers happened not because the guy running it was a bad guy, it's because there was no clear definition and everyone was running in their own direction. And while it's almost like while the food got to the table, it was so exhausting to complete that simple action that's like no surprise in a restaurant. The cost was really high. I'm going to get emotional now. So where is a good place to wrap this up, Emily? Because I'm full of vision, I'm full of mission, my values are aligned, and this is the Coworking Values Podcast. What's the closing move for us?
Well, if anyone wants any help getting those artifacts together, we could certainly help them do that. You could go to Bernie's site, berniejmitchell.com, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Emily Breeder, Breder. And we could certainly help you do those things. We've done it a bunch of times for ourselves and with clients. And, maybe the people out there listening could also choose their own vision, mission, and values, the guiding principles of their own life. It can help you in those times, like Bernie was saying before, where, you're not quite sure where to turn, or you're in one of those pregnant moments where you don't know what's happening next, or you're at a very low point or in survival mode. It can really help to guide you back onto a path to somewhere you actually want to go.
A really good starting point for this is something I use a lot. And if you go to, I'll put a link in the show notes to this. It's a free online tool called Hero on a Mission. And you can write your mission statement and everything. It's a personal tool. So, you can't take it to your company and let it do the work for you. But you just write 3 goals in there and you write a 1-year vision. And it takes a long time to get this together. It's not something you're going to kind of do on your phone on the bus. It's worth, as Emily said, putting in the energy to think about this. And also something I've learned from doing that for so long is it's okay to change your vision, because a lot of you know that we moved to Spain, and part of the whole vision for me and our family was to live in another country. So now we've done that and we have to think of something else, and it took a bit of time to think about that. And a lot of that we're still thinking about, but at least we kind of know what direction we're going in. So Emily's already said where you can find us online. We'll put links to all the show notes, put links in all the show notes, including the Workspace Design Show, which is in February 2025 at the Business Design Centre in London. And you can actually book your free ticket to come to that now. And we'll be doing a couple of London Co-working Assembly events there. But you need to be on the London Co-working Assembly email list to find out about those events. And we have European Co-working Day coming up as well, which is in May 2025. And we're telling people about that now because we want people to get that in their calendar. And Emily and I will be running some events to help you prepare for European Co-working Day. Do you want to say anything about that, Emily?
Oh, not at the moment. I'm sure we will talk about it a lot in the coming months, but it's something that we're really looking forward to and planning some interesting events around. So, keep an eye on our social feeds.
Thank you very much for your time and attention today. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.